Just wanted to use this as an excuse to test my camera, really. It's so detailed and it's strange. I'm not sure I like it. Because I get people saying all the time that I look young for my age. But I think it's partly just that I've got quite a young sounding voice. Because if I look in the mirror, I can definitely see signs of aging. So yeah, definitely my age. Definitely. I definitely look different to how I used to. But yeah, this camera, it's strange because it's quite zoomed in. I'm not used to that. And I'm not used to seeing so much detail on my face. Like I said, I'm not sure I like it. I'm thinking of starting up my podcast again because I only had one episode last year and it's kind of died a horrible death because I wanted to focus on just what I was interested in. And also, I have this thing where I often suffer a crisis of confidence where I just don't want to do these kinds of things, even though I do. It's a strange thing. I do want to do them, but at the same time, I don't. It's not that it terrifies me, but I'm hesitant. I just don't feel comfortable. And I had an interesting experience recently, say over the past month or so. Just I met someone who could have been like a romantic interest. And sometimes I think it happens to just men in general, but sometimes if there's a young, attractive female that shows interest in you, you sometimes leave your brain at home. And I did that for a short period until just started to think a bit more, and I was thinking it's not, you need to take time to really know someone's values and how they just what they think about the world, and if they're mature enough and if they've got their head screwed on right. So yeah, I decided to not pursue that any further because I have this problem in relationships where I romanticize things and I get very into it. And I get caught up in the emotion of it and I enjoy that. But as I get older and I think more about what I want in life, that's not something that I can handle until, and I'm talking really slowly because my speech is still kind of compromised, but it's a lot better than it was. Yeah, I was just saying that's something that I'm not willing to compromise on. I have to know, I have to be well aware of my long-term goals and that might have some kind of serious, it has to be like a serious relationship. I don't do casual. So yeah, that's a big thing in my life. Sometimes people ignore these things because they think just sort your diet out and you'll be fine. Yeah, but relationships is important. Your relationships are important. I have lots of relationships with friends, good people, very good people. So I don't necessarily need a romantic relationship, even though it's nice sometimes. I can take my time on it. It's important to do that. It's just with the age thing, you think, I don't want to be this, get to be this old man who, if I want to have a kid someday, have just this young, you know, whippersnapper that I can't relate to because she's so young and I'm old. But yeah, that's life. Yeah, I like this camera, I think. But it's quite precariously placed. It doesn't actually attach properly. And my running's getting better, which is good. But I noticed the day after, like today, my speech is labored. It's not like it was before where it's oh, where it becomes just difficult to form words. It's that I still have that, but it feels different. But it's so weird just this whole year. Well, I say whole year. Well, we are in March, but this from the start of this year, just this dysphasia that I've had. It's weird. And it happened after I visited I went to Malaga over Christmas. And then I came back and this is what happened. Just my speech has been really disturbed and really labored and going in and out, and just when I think I've got a hold of it, it gets bad again. Sometimes it gets better with fasting. And definitely if I eat more than twice a day, it gets worse. So the intermittent fasting is also important. What I eat is important, but that's always it's always been important. It can be quite tiring having to think about all these things all the time. And socially, it's like, you have to always explain yourself. And yeah, sometimes in dating situations, it becomes a bit tricky because you have to mention it because food is often how we socialize. Food and drink, because I can't even have caffeinated beverages and even some herbal teas I can't have. So it makes my social life very difficult. But my social life at the moment tends to revolve around quite active things, sports or running, exercise in general. And so it's another balance of not pushing myself too much. Because if I do that, I can have these focal seizures. But my threshold's improving again, which is good. It goes up and down throughout the year. It's not always consistent. Anyway, don't really know what to say. I just thought I'd test the camera and see what comes into my mind about what to talk about. And it's good for me to do this because, I mean, I can talk to myself, but sometimes it's nice even if you're not aware of who's there. Just to have someone who listens to you. But yeah. Sometimes we need that connection with other people. Humans are social animals. Unfortunately. Wish we weren't. And yeah, this incident, I don't want to call it an incident, this thing that happened was in a way good for me, having that kind of interest. having someone who was interested in me, but I don't know, because I don't often have a high opinion of myself for some reason. And I know what the reason is. It stems back from my childhood. I'm not an idiot. So you just need to keep that thing in the box, that jack in the box. You need to keep it in the box, because otherwise it can pop out and cause all kinds of problems in my head. Just telling me just that I'm horrible and worthless and all of that stuff. And it still happens like it used to before I changed my diet all those years ago. But it's a lot easier to manage those thoughts and feelings, because it was pretty bad before my brain tumor diagnosis. I was haunted by all these horrible thoughts and used to self-harm, and it's pretty bad. And I wasn't open about it, so it was a case of suffering in silence and then being forced to have medical attention for it. But yeah, I might delete this video after, because it's getting quite personal, but it's important in a way, and maybe it can help other people, because it's definitely contributed to the person I am and how I've managed to have the strength to do what I do. Because I'm a bit mad, but in a positive way. I feel like you can have all these predispositions, let's say, to complete self-destruction. But those things, when concentrated in the right way, you can do incredible things. So if you hate yourself, you can contain that feeling that you have and direct it towards something positive. At least that's what I try to do. And also think about, because it's Brain Tumor Awareness Month, so I've been thinking a lot about friends of mine who have lost to brain tumors, and it actually motivates me more to do all I can. So yeah, thank you for the comment. I appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes it's weird, because I even wonder, why are people still interested in me, in my story, even like the brain tumor story? Because it's been, I guess with time it actually makes it more interesting, because obviously you're not supposed to live that long without a recurrence, at least. And it's quite surreal. That's why I kind of laugh to myself a lot, because every day is a bit weird. And even when I pass milestones, like not just in terms of time, but achievements, being able to run and get faster times, and to do that with minimal training. I think the diet makes a huge difference. If you're running and you're doing it in ketosis, particularly therapeutic ketosis, is usually around 3 to 5 millimolars per liter. It becomes much more efficient. I find it really just, my breathing is very almost metronomic when I'm running, and it's enjoyable, and it's quite meditative. Focus a lot on my surroundings, and sometimes I do barefoot running, but not always. And I think also I get faster times than a lot of people who train multiple times a week. This isn't me like bragging or anything, by the way. It's just really interesting phenomena. Just it's interesting how I managed to run quite fast times in a very relaxed state with a very efficient running form. I think my biomechanics are just really good. I don't get problems with my knees or ankles or anything. I guess I'm not running crazy distances either, so it doesn't feel like I'm exhausted. But I definitely feel as though in ketosis, you're able to not only run more efficiently in terms of your breathing and your breathing and maybe just that effect of the impact of on your joints and things. It's also, I find that I recover really quickly, which is contrary to a lot of what people like to say, just that you need carbs to recover, and there's that whole carb loading thing that was popular not that long ago, actually, like early 2000s. It's so funny because when I was doing my undergrad in 2005, I think it was. Feels like a long time ago. Well, it was kind of, but yeah, feels like a long time ago. Yeah, when I was doing that in 2005, my degree in sports sciences. The course was actually called Exercise, Nutrition and Health Sciences at the University of Roehampton. It's socially the most amazing university. I had, I wasn't quite ready for it, but it was kind of overwhelming, but socially really. It could have been good if I was a social confident person and hadn't just recovered from serious eating disorders. But no, I really enjoyed it. But at the time, it's going off on a bit of a tangent. At the time, the carb loading was like a really popular thing. And one of our core texts was Law of Running by Tim Noakes. And since then, Tim Noakes has actually said, and he kind of popularized or helped to popularize the whole carb loading thing. And now he just says what a huge mistake that was. And now he's a prominent keto low carb guy. Mostly low carb, I think, but very into keto. And yeah, it's just really funny because things changed, but then people didn't go with him on the change, even though he was like a huge proponent of the carb loading and a highly esteemed individual in that space. And they kind of left him behind. He's changed his opinion, but we weren't. That was the kind of way people were thinking. It's weird when you look back because sometimes you have regrets, but yeah, it is what it is. I was going to say something, but I forgot. I have this kind of conference thing on Tuesday, which I'm not looking forward to. It's a brain tumor thing. It's full of just stuffy people talking about different protocols of chemo and radiation and long-term effects of those treatments and how we can better manage that. Why not better manage it by thinking of alternatives to those treatments, not alternatives where you're maybe trying different dosages and different types of radiation. It's all radiation, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. They're always interesting. I always try to poke the bear a bit when I'm at these things. Because yeah, I have to go to these things. I don't really choose. I don't really choose to. It's just in my area of work. I have to go. But yeah, I'm trying some new things, and I'm gonna see if I can write a paper on if my meeting is successful on Tuesday about this. See if I can write a paper on different diagnostic techniques, because I can give this away, I guess. Because for a lot of cancers, you can use thermography to view what's happening with the tumor and the tumor area. And lots of these brain tumors are highly vascular, and thermography can reveal different things that even certain MRI scans can't. And I say that because there's so many different types of MRI, and you can go wild on exploring the differences between all those and how they can benefit you and how they maybe have limitations. But with the thermography, I feel like that's a largely unexplored area, and it's cost effective, and I can easily do it as like a small trial with patients. So that'd be cool to try for monitoring what I want to do is to use thermography with brain tumors to help me to monitor a small sample of patients who have low grade glioma brain tumors. The reason I want to look at low grade glioma is because they definitely won't have yeah, thermography is temperature related. So with brain tumors, they're highly vascular, and you have that level of inflammation that you can see with thermography, and you can see different kind of intricacies, I want to say, of the vascular behavior. Don't know if that's like an accurate terminology, but I'm going with it. And yeah, there's just various subtleties that you can see that would be interesting to write a paper on, and to look at these people with low-grade glioma where they're on this watch and wait protocol. They call it watch and wait. It's not proactive at all. What they're doing is they're just watching these slow-growing brain tumors until they eventually get angry and start to get aggressive and become higher grade. And what I want to do is I want to get these patients together, because there's very few trials on low-grade gliomas anyway. So I'm doing a favor for the for those people, and for academia, I guess, to do this kind of work. I feel like it's really meaningful. If I don't, it hasn't been done before, which is strange. I don't know why that is. If someone else wants to do it for me, that's great, because yeah, I'm not really ego driven. I don't really care. I just want someone to do it because I feel like it would be valuable. But yeah, there's this weird thing where it's actually good if you kind of own something and take credit for something, and you're the principal investigator on this new pioneering approach. But you have to play the game, don't you? I'm not very good. I'm not very good at playing the game. I've had so many opportunities to even just I've had so many opportunities to get more funding and to get money myself and to really sell myself, and to and even have like a YouTube channel where I make it more interesting and have more viewers, and do more with my podcast. And yeah, but I find it really just difficult. I find it difficult when I know that people are reading something or watching someone or engaging. If I pretend like no one's there, it's so so much easier. Yeah. But you'd think that would get better with age, but clearly not. Clearly not. I'm 39 this year. Feels crazy. Absolutely crazy. Having a kind of existential crisis here. I mean, yeah. I was actually engaged 3 years ago. That's crazy to think about. I nearly got married, but I didn't. Anyway, maybe she's watching this. I don't know. Probably not. I don't think she watches many of my videos. That's my problem. I pretend people don't watch, and then someone like my oncologist will have watched one of my videos, and I think, oh, that's interesting. Because often these people don't really have time for, for much else. And then when I hear that they've read something I've done or watched a video or been at a conference, I think, really? You have some free time and you chose it to do that. That's interesting. I haven't seen my oncologist in a long time. I'm kind of left to my own devices, really. Just if I have a scan, get the CD after, and I look at it myself. And I know what I'm looking at because I'm trained to do that. I've had the training and I know what I'm doing. Still feels kind of uncomfortable because you want that expert and that you kind of want that validation. I've had my oncologist does want me to do a case study on myself, but I've been very lazy about it because I have to accumulate so much detail from 11 years. And I know other people have had similar case studies, but because I'd want it to be like a perfect documentation of every little thing and every subtle change on a scan or every detail of an approach, it becomes quite daunting and quite, yeah, it's a lot to do. But eventually, I think something like that will happen. I actually wrote a book about my story, and I was really keen to just get it out there, but then at the last minute, I hesitated, and I've just kind of kept it to myself. But eventually, I'll probably edit it and get it out there because it can help people, even though, yeah, it doesn't feel like a natural thing for me. Yeah, I need to publish that case study at some point. I had this weird situation when I was doing an internship a few years ago at Imperial, where I had an opportunity to do some tests on my own tumor, and I felt so weird about it, and there was some issue surrounding it. I can't remember what it was because we had samples of my tumor in paraffin slices. A lot of it went down the sink after after my operation because it was just so vascular and messy. But what they could kind of salvage went in these paraffin blocks and had different kind of tests on it. But it's different too if you can still get so much information from it, but it's different to if you have like fresh tissue as like more of a more of I want to say a mass, but more like just sort of more substance than, yeah, just a few slices of tissue. And It's really interesting looking at autopsies. I've had a look at different brains that they have in their brain lab, and you can tell which ones are healthy and which ones are not, because the healthy brains, you can put your finger in it. So it's a weird thing. You can put your finger in it and it will kind of just bounce back into shape. But if you have a diseased brain, like someone with Alzheimer's, for example, even the brain cancer ones, where you just got this kind of tumor there, but even the brain cancer ones are in and around the tumor. If you put your finger in it, it doesn't bounce back to shape, and it's quite not sensitive, but quite it's not it's quite delicate. But yeah, I had this weird opportunity at one point to not work in a morgue, but be someone who's that person who just does tests on the bodies. I guess it is working in a morgue, but you're pathologizing in a way. You're finding out cause of death and all that stuff. And I was actually really interested in doing it because I just find that fascinating, and I have experience being around dead bodies now, so I've become desensitized to it in a way which is feels bizarre thinking that, because when I first saw a dead body, it was quite a visceral reaction because it was someone I knew. And yeah, yeah, just it's this weird thing, dead bodies. But it's I see it as a body, because rather than this is a person, because they're not there anymore. It's like when I was there when my mum died, and she died in my arms. Just before she died, there was this moment, and then as soon as she'd passed, it was no longer she was no longer she was no longer there. She was no longer my mum. She was just gone. She was just a body. So it's weird when someone you love dies in a hospice, because you'll be there when they die, and then you'll leave, and then they kind of, well, at least this is what happened with me, but I know this happens quite often. You leave, and then they do their make them look kind of pretty and nice, and then you go back in and say another like final goodbye, but it was just a cold body. No, it was no longer. I'd already said my goodbyes, and it was quite striking to me how people, when they're about to die, they can hold on until they've said everything that they need to say, and then they go. It makes you think, doesn't it? Just about makes you think a lot about life, and makes you think that there could be something more, if that's a possibility, if that happens. But yeah, it was a really beautiful moment just before my mum died, even though it was incredibly earth-shatteringly tragic and sad. It's interesting when someone dies. I always find that just it's hospices can be interesting places in that respect, because there's incredible people that work there. There was this one particular nurse that we got really attached to. It's just incredible how they go just so out of their way to do what they do. Even though, yeah, it's a sad kind of thing. But in my kind of situation where you've come face to face with your own mortality so many times. And early on, I had 3 near-death experiences. So it's crazy to think about. First one was the brain hemorrhage I had on the train. Second one was when I developed status epilepticus, where you're just constantly having seizures. And I thought the brain damage that I had from that would be just on such a level that I don't know how I managed to be so not just normal now, but able to function at quite a high level. It's crazy. And then I had another experience where I had a really violent breakthrough seizure, which is pretty horrific. And that was when I had an experience where I purposely overdosed on my anti-seizure drugs to end my life. I'm laughing because it's just crazy to think about now. And it was so out of character. It was both a side effect of the medication changing my brain chemistry and messing up my thoughts in my head, having all these intrusive thoughts. And secondly, because I was still having seizures at that point. I thought this is no way to live, and I tried to end my life. But thankfully, I just ended up being in hospital for a few days, and I had a long sleep, and I woke up. And yeah, but I didn't tell anyone the reason why that happened. And after that, I used to have to have someone watch me take my medication and not take too much. And then they had to withhold it from me, which yeah, it was a fun time. But I learned a lot from it. So I learned a lot from it, and actually surviving that made me more resilient. Every time that I've been in these situations where I feel like giving up, whether it be giving up on life, giving up on trying certain metabolic therapies or whatever it is, something that's good for me, I feel like I get to the lowest of the low points, and then something happens where I double my resolve and I actually become really strong and more resilient and more focused. Because when you're faced with that kind of epilepsy, what people often don't tell you when you're transitioning onto, in my case, it was a 4-to-1 ketogenic diet, so that things can get worse before they get better. Your brain needs to adjust to it. I guess your mind needs to adjust to it as well. It's such a huge change. Everything's changing. Gut microbiome's changing. But all of the experiences that I've had just have strengthened me, and it's been really good. And it gives me empathy for others in those situations. And I can talk to them and say, look, if I can do this, you can do this. I'm not really that special. There are people who've been in better circumstances than I have. And they've had difficulty. So if I can do it, they can do it. Yeah, I'm going to go now, but I think this camera is pretty good. I like it. So hopefully I can do my podcast again, because I've got some questions that I want to answer. And that's why I do the podcast, because I have interesting questions, and I hope other people find the talks and interviews that I do interesting. And if you haven't heard my podcast before, it's called The Human Guinea Pig Project, and it should be easy to search for. But if you don't find it, I won't be offended. But if you're interested in some of the topics, have a listen, see what you think. I don't make any money from it. It's just like a knowledge base. So if you're interested, give it a listen. And thanks for watching to my ramblings. Thanks for watching my ramblings. And yeah, have a good rest of the day, whatever time it is where you are.